Okay, so welcome to this discussion. Today we are going to discuss on a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Okay, so this book is authored by a person called Robert Kiyosaki, and this book has impacted thousands of people around the world. Uh, when this book got published, I think it was the thoughts that this guy presents had become radical, and it changed the way people think about money and investments. Okay, so coming to why this book is named Rich Dad and Rich Dad Poor Dad, this person, the author, uh, says he learned from two of his dads. Okay. One person who went to university, uh, who holds a PhD, and who is a teacher, and other person who barely passed eighth grade. Okay, one was his biological father, who the teacher, the one who holds the PhD, and the other one is whom he calls the rich dad. Okay, the biological father, or the one who holds PhD, is poor dad in this book. Okay, and the rich dad is his friend's father. Okay, he had a friend called Mike, and uh, so his father, he came into I mean he met him through his friend Mike, and in this book he has contrasted the difference in the thinking patterns of these two fathers, these two dads. Okay, we're going to look at that. So this presentation is covered in two steps. Okay, uh, part one will be the mindset, and the second one will be the financial literacy. Okay, so before that, let's go to this prologue here. Okay, your mind is the greatest asset, and the knowledge you acquire is your greatest investment. Okay, and let's keep this point in mind throughout this presentation and beyond that as well. Okay, yeah. So let's move on to the part one of this presentation, the mindset. Okay, so the problem statement. So we start with the problem statement. So one of the reasons the rich get richer and the poor get poorer and the middle class struggle in debt is because the subject of money is taught at home and not in school. Okay, this all of you might be able to appreciate this, the gravity of this statement. And most of us learn about money from our parents. So he says, what can poor parents tell their child about money? They can only say stay in school and study hard, right? And this child may graduate with excellent grades, but what is the mindset? So the child will have a poor person's financial programming and the mindset. Okay, this is what the author says. So let's see, the author goes on to document a few of the uh, thought patterns of both his poor dad and rich dad. So here PD, when I say PD indicates poor dad, and when we see RD indicates rich dad. Okay, let's see how their thinking patterns were, and let's see what we can make out from this. So first thing, the poor dad says the love for money is the root of all evil. Okay. While the rich dad says the lack of money is the root of all evil. So I want you to note the way they interpret things. They interpret things about money. Next thing, poor dad says, I can't afford it, but the rich dad says, how can I afford it? Basically, he asks a question, so how can I afford it? Poor dad says, study hard so you find a good company to work for. The rich dad says, study hard so you find a good company to buy. The rich, the poor dad says, the reason I am not rich is because I have you kids. Okay. But the rich dad says, the reason I must be rich, this has to be rich, is because I have you kids. Okay. Just look at the difference in the thinking pattern of these two people. So poor dad says, when it comes to money, play it safe, don't take risks. But the rich dad says, learn to manage risks. Poor dad says, our house is our greatest investment and greatest asset. Rich dad says, my house is a liability. And if your home is your greatest or largest investment, then you are in trouble. Okay. So that's how the way we think shapes our outlook on life. And here specifically about money. Okay. I want you to note this one statement here. How can I afford it? So the author says, when we say I can't afford it, our brain stops working, our brain stops thinking. But when we say how can I afford it, if we make this statement, right, the brain starts to work, and it goes into a solution oriented mode. Okay. So basically you will get, I mean, you may have gotten some idea as to how these thinking patterns about money, uh, uh, how are they different between the rich and the poor. Okay, this is just a set of examples, but you will find so many if you interact with the people who are wealthy and people who are not so wealthy. Okay. So here we explain the power of thoughts. Okay, I will just zoom in to the area which I will read out to you guys. So this is from the book. The poor dad always said, I'll never be rich. And that prophecy became reality. My rich dad, on the other hand, always referred to himself as rich. He would say things like, I'm a rich man, rich people don't do this. Even when he was flat broke after a major financial setback, he continued to refer to himself as a rich man. He would cover himself by saying, there's a difference between being rich, being poor, and being broke. There's a difference between being poor and being broke. Broke is temporary, poor is eternal. And let's go to the his comments on the power of thought. Okay. The power of our thoughts may never be measured or appreciated, but it became obvious to me as a young boy that it was important to be aware of my thoughts and how I express myself. I noticed that my poor dad was not poor. My poor dad was poor not because of the amount of money he earned, which was significant, but because of his thoughts and actions. So, this is the important statement here. So, because of his thoughts and actions, his poor dad remained poor. So, I hope the ground is clear. It's basically first thing is our mindset or our thinking pattern. Okay, that sets the rhythm. Next, we go to another statement that he makes. There is a difference between being poor and being broke. Broke is temporary, poor is eternal. And rich dad says, I don't work for money, money works for me. Okay, this is exactly what the rich people do. They do not work for money, they make money work for them. Okay, How do they do that? We will see what is the philosophy behind it, or what is the logic behind that. We will see in the second part of this presentation. The poor and the middle class work for money. The rich have money work for them. Okay. Then author talks about a pattern which most of the middle class and the poor are put into, or they themselves made into a part of the pattern. Okay. He says, first, the fear of being without money motivates us to work hard. Okay. So there is a fear of being without money. Okay. Fear of uh, financial security. Okay. And that motivates us to work hard. What happens next? And then once we get the paycheck, okay, this is where our thinking changes. Once we get the paycheck, greed or desire starts us to think about all the wonderful things money can buy. So once we get the paycheck, right, so what happens is greed or desire enters into the mind. Okay, it dominates the mind and starts thinking about all the wonderful things that the money can buy. Okay, you see, there is a fear in the beginning, but once that fear is resolved, the desire takes in the desire kicks in. Okay, this is the pattern. Okay, so that then the pattern sets in. We get up, work, pay bills, get up, work, pay bills. So once we buy stuff, we will need money again. So we get up, work, get the paycheck again, desire kicks in. So this is the pattern. Okay, a loop. Okay, so most middle class are in this loop. Okay, so this is called the rat race. So the rat race begins. So the author says, goes on to say, people lives are basically governed by two emotions, just like we saw in the previous slide: fear and greed or desire. Okay, so emotions basically control our brain, and that's because of that we fail to think. Okay, these emotions of fear and greed, they control our brain and do the thinking for us rather than our own intellect thinking. Okay, this is basically, he says, this is basically the main reason why uh, people don't become rich. Okay, because their thinking itself is governed by these emotions. Okay, the author goes on to give some solutions to it, which he has which he has basically seen, or which he has learned from his rich dad. Okay. He says, be truthful about your emotions. So he says these emotions as such, they are not bad. Uh, okay, but we just have to accept it, and we should use those emotions in our favor, not against ourselves. Okay. He says, just be an observer, not a reactor to your emotions. So this is the solution that he gives. So when an emotion sets in, you just observe it. Okay, do not let it control your brain. So do not be a reactor to it. Just observe it. Okay, so most people do not know that it is their emotions that are doing the thinking. So you have got to do your own thinking. So you have to use your intellect, what we call buddhi in Indian language. So so that has to take charge of the thinking. So learn to use your emotions to think, not think with your emotions. Okay, so choosing what we think rather than reacting to our emotions is the way out. That's what he says. Okay, this need not be just in the matter of money. uh, okay, you might appreciate this in any other aspect of life. So we must be in a position to choose what we think. Okay, so We should not make our emotions do the thinking for us. Okay, that's why he says take charge. Okay, that's part one of this. So let's go to part two. Before that, if you have any questions, so what we covered in part one is basically the mindset. Okay, we have to set the ground first before planting the seeds. Okay, if you have any questions, you can ask, or else I'll move on to the next part. Okay, I hope you have. I'm audible, right? I need a feedback. Okay, okay. Thank you. Thank you for the confirmation. So we'll move on to part two, the financial literacy. Okay. So here we will look at why uh, rich people get richer, and why middle class stay in debt cycle, and why poor remain poor. Okay, and how to move from any of these bands, poor or middle class, to the rich band. Okay, so that's basically taught here. So we'll not be see what I'll just set the expectations here. We'll not be going into the specific aspects of it. Okay, we'll just look at it's like a bird's eye view. Okay, so how wealth is made. Okay, and you can take this view and apply it specifically in your life. Okay, so in the matters of money. Okay, so author starts with this statement: it's not how much money you make, it's how much money you keep that matters. So that's what basically makes all the difference. Okay, you may be someone who is earning 6 lpa, 10 lpa, 30 lpa. It doesn't matter. It's ultimately how much money you keep for yourself or for your future. Okay, that's what matters. So let's look at this. So what does the process of becoming financially free look like? Okay, so there is a small diagram here. So if you can explain this, it would be great. So can you make out something from this? Yeah, yeah, exactly. So first it's more like planting a tree itself. Okay, you sow the seed, you water it for years, you nourish it for years, and when it becomes a big tree, right, uh, that one day it doesn't need you anymore. Okay, because its roots are planted deep enough. So later the same tree will provide you the shade for enjoyment. Similarly, even with wealth creation, right, it's the same pattern. Okay, you start saving. Okay, you accumulate those savings, and at one point of time you become financially free. What do I mean by financially free? You can spend the rest of your life without worrying about money, because money will keep coming, because that tree has grown and its roots are deep enough, so you don't have to worry about it. So that's what we are doing this now. Okay, the seed. So where are we planting the seed? We're planting the seed in our minds. Okay, because the mind is your greatest asset, and the knowledge is the greatest investment. So knowledge is this seed now. Okay, so before going there, so let's just read what's presented here. So he says, he talks about a few richest businessmen of his time. Okay, not of his time, but a generation previous to him. Okay, so in 1923, a group of greatest leaders and richest businessmen held a meeting at some beach, and he lists down so many names here. Okay, so many names. It is in 1923. 25 years later, okay, in 1948, if you look what happened to them. Okay, so nine of them. So he talks about specifically nine of them. Let's read what happened to them. One person died penniless. Okay, and another person died broke in a foreign land. Two other two also died broke. So one person went insane. Okay, and other two were released from prison, and other two committed suicide. Okay, so even though they were rich at some point of time, but they died very miserably. The reason we may not know or we may not understand, but what author says is it's basically the way they handled money. Okay, after becoming rich, the way they handled money and their thinking process about the money, that made them end their lives in uh, it's basically a shocker. So what he says is, if you think money will solve your life's problems, so you're going to have a rough ride. Okay, so what, he connects this statement to the previous slide. So if you think having all the money in the world solves a problem, so we will have a rough ride. So what solves the problem then? So he says intelligence, pure intelligence solves the problems and produces money. Okay. And money without financial intelligence is money soon gone. And he says this is probably what happened to those people. So they had money, but they did not have financial intelligence. Okay. So what we are basically doing here is investing in the intelligence, or growing our intelligence, growing our financial intelligence. First to build wealth, later to uh, protect that wealth. Okay. So here is the rule number one of getting rich. So this is the central piece of this presentation. Okay. So rule number one of getting rich. So what is it? You must know the difference between an asset and a liability, and buy assets. Okay, and that's the only rule you need to know. Okay, this is rule number one, and it is the only rule you need to know. So if you have to take away something from this presentation, right, it is this slide. Okay, so you must know the difference between an asset and a liability, and buy assets. So what is an asset, what is a liability, we will see next. Okay, so carve this out in your minds, write it somewhere, take screenshot, and this is the ultimate thing. Okay, this is the only rule of getting rich. Okay, so let's see, let's decode this. What is an asset, what is a liability, and things like that. Okay, before decoding it, so he says rich people acquire assets, the poor and middle class acquire liabilities that they think are assets. Okay, so because rich people acquire assets, they become rich, uh, and because the other two classes acquire liabilities thinking that they are assets. Okay, if they do that, they stay in the same class that they are. So what is an asset and what is a liability? Okay, he says in very simple terms, an asset puts money in my pocket. Okay, an asset is anything that puts money in your pocket, and a liability takes money out of your pocket. Okay, this is the definition of asset and liability. Okay, an asset is anything that puts money in your pocket, and liability is anything that takes money out of your pocket. Now you can think in your own financial position, you can divide everything into an asset and liability. Okay, just with this definition. Okay, so as I said, we'll not go into the specifics. It's just we'll not go into the specifics. It's a bird's eye view. Okay, an asset could be let's say I'm just giving examples. It could be your real estate, or the house that you have rented, or mutual funds, or stocks, or gold. Okay, all of them have the potential to put money in your pocket. So what is a liability? A liability uh, could be uh, a car, and a very expensive car, a very expensive mobile. Okay, or a very expensive house that you're constructing, or you have constructed, which do not put money in your pocket. They basically take money out of your pocket, right? Okay, so once this is understood, what do we have to do? We have to buy assets. Okay, so let's understand this in simple diagrams. Okay, so this will explain this. It's an income statement or profit or loss statement. Is all that is a table. It's basically a table where we list how much money we get as income and how much money we uh, uh, goes out. Okay, income and expenses. Okay, a balance sheet is something, according to this author, uh, contains the list of things. Okay, list of assets and list of liabilities. Okay, so income is whatever comes in to us, and expenses whatever goes out, mm, of our pocket. Okay, and asset is a list of things that can potentially bring more money, and liability is a list of things that can potentially blow money out of our pocket. Okay. So what is a cash flow of an asset? Let's see. An asset, what is the definition of asset? Asset is anything that puts money in my pocket. So an asset puts money in my pocket. So whatever so from the so that we draw this line here, an arrow. From asset we get income. Okay, so can you guess now can you guess what is the cash flow of a liability? How will it look like? Yeah, exactly, it's no brainer. So from liability to expenses, and it goes out. Okay, so if you understand this, you have understood everything about asset and liability. Okay, next the author goes on to show the cash flow of three classes that we see, right? Poor, middle class, and the rich. Okay, so for a poor person, how does this income statement or cash flow look like? Okay, a person will have a job, and the income comes in as salary, and he will have expenses like tax, rent, food, transportation, clothes. Okay, and money goes out. Okay, there is he's investing nothing in assets, nothing in, I mean, liabilities. Okay, whatever the salary that he gets, I mean, at the end of the month, he will have no money, because all of it got consumed in the expenses, and because of that he doesn't put anything in the asset. Okay, or the liability as well. Okay, so this is the cash flow of a poor person. Now, can you guess what the cash flow of middle class may look like? So middle class person will have a job. The income is basically from his salary. He will have so many expenses. Okay, and there are liabilities that he has acquired, like mortgage, car loans, credit card debt, school loan, and could be many things. Okay, so how will it look like? Can we guess? obviously it has to start from job. From job, where does his income come to? Come through salary, right? Yeah. Yeah. And liabilities. Yeah, exactly. So this is how it will be. He has a job, salary, and he invests a part of it in liabilities, in paying the loans and things like that, and remaining into expenses, the taxes and other payments, and that goes out. Okay, this is basically the pattern of most middle class now. Cash flow pattern of most of the middle class, and they do not invest anything in the assets. If you see here, the asset column is blank. Okay, as soon as they get the salary, they purchase liabilities which they think are assets, and other expenses, and they are done. Okay, this is basically the cycle. So when since they get the salary, right, they start acquiring liabilities, and that liabilities ultimately will take away money from your pocket next month and years to come. So they are stuck in this loop. Okay, and they have no time to think about acquiring assets. They are always paying debts. Okay, now cash flow of a rich person, how will it look like? So before that, let's just glance through this here. So what does the income statement look like? So he will have income from rent, dividends, uh, interest, royalties. Okay, and he'll have minimum expenses, taxes and other mortgage payments, and he has a long list of assets: real estate, stocks, bonds, notes, IPs, and there will be some liabilities as well. Okay, so can you tell me how the cash flow of rich person will look like? From where to where do we draw the arrow? Yeah, exactly. It comes from assets to income. Okay, so the assets will generate the income. Okay, and that a part of it will be spent in expenses, a part of it will be spent in liabilities, and the remaining gets reinvested in assets. Okay, so your asset column is always growing in case of a rich person. Okay, but for the other two, uh, the middle class and the poor, we have nothing in the asset column. The rich person will have acquired assets, and that basically generates the income to him, and that income pays for his expenses and liabilities, and there will be something left over, so that gets reinvested in the asset column, and asset column basically grows. That's how people remain rich or grow rich day by day. So he says the cash flow tells the story how a person handles the money. Okay, we have seen three kinds of people, right? Poor, middle class, and the rich. So it basically tells how they handle the money. Okay, so let's just summarize it here. For a poor person, there is an income through salary, and that everything gets expended uh, through his monthly expenses, and he doesn't invest anything in assets. But for a middle class person, he has income through salary, he purchases liabilities, and then there is expenditure, and all money is gone. But for a rich person, he has assets, he has acquired assets that pays for his that comes in as income, that pays for his expenses and liabilities. Okay, so now why do we struggle? So he says, why do middle class struggle? Okay, once our income increases, right? So this is a normal mindset of a any middle class person. So if his income increases, he starts acquiring uh, liabilities, or basically his expenses increase. So if your salary increases from 10 lakh to 15 lakh, our standard of living also becomes expensive. Okay, which means we are acquiring more and more liabilities. Okay, so as income increases, liabilities increase and expenses increase, and it's the same pattern. So we do not accumulate any assets. So that's why most uh, uh, most of Indians struggle. Okay. Okay. Now the author goes on to show this same cash flow, or how their income and balance sheet looks like for his poor dad and rich dad. Okay, so the poor dad did have assets, but he had this liability column very long. Okay, and his income were equal to expenses. Okay, at the end of the month he would have nothing left, because income and expenses were almost equal. Okay, so this is basically the picture of middle class. Okay, they will have some assets, but their income and expenditure are always equal. They do not think on growing their assets. But yeah, for a rich dad, so how does it look like? uh, so rich dad will have assets higher than liabilities. Okay, his asset column is way big and longer than his liabilities, and because of that his income is higher than his expenses. Okay, okay, I'm getting. So yeah, so you get this point, right? So it's basically the difference. So income, so income of rich person, rich dad is growing because his asset column generates the income, so that the income can pay for the expenses, and remaining amount gets reinvested in assets. Okay, so this is why rich get richer. So if you have any questions on this, you can ask. Okay, if you have any confusions on this, you can ask. Okay, so if you have, yeah, if you don't have questions, I can go further. So yeah, I need a feedback. Am I audible? Because there was a call in between. Okay, okay, okay. So yeah, the author goes on to say why the middle class struggles, and why the rich get richer. Okay, so the rich get richer because the asset column generates income, and his income grows, and that pays for expenses and liabilities completely, and there will be something that is left. Okay, and that gets reinvested. So if the assets grow, uh, there will be extra leftover income that gets reinvested in assets. So asset column keeps on growing. Okay, and his expense, I mean, the rich person will always look at cutting down the expenses. Okay, so this is basically the psychology of a rich person. And how about the middle class? So as their income grows, their standard of living also goes up. That's why they acquire more and more liabilities, and their expenses also increase. So that's why people struggle. When we say standard of living goes up, right? What they do is basically, when their income grows, they go to bank and get a loan, uh, and let's say for an expensive car or expensive house or land, expensive house. Okay, and that way they're caught in a rat race. So they go to job, pay for these liabilities, like monthly mi payments. Okay, and at some point their income also again increases, salary revision, and they start acquiring more and more liabilities. Okay, this is what the pattern is. Okay. Okay. So yes. So that's the end of this. So if you understand this slide, right? The one that is coming up, yeah, this slide, and if you see what is the thought process or what is the psychology behind these two kinds of people, okay, that's sufficient for you to grow your wealth. Okay, so what is the message conveyed by this slide? You should always start on think about acquiring assets rather than increasing our liability column. Yes. And final thoughts from this presentation. So the rich people buy assets. Okay. The poor have expenses. The poor only have expenses, and the middle class buy liabilities which they think are assets. Okay. This is how the author differentiates. The rich buys assets, the poor only have expenses, and the middle class they are confused because they buy liabilities thinking that they are assets. Yeah, that's all I had. So if you have any questions or confusions or comments, you can, yeah, you can take them.